Hello y'all, now that we have finished Mega Man X1 all the way to Mega Man X5, it is time that we start with the first of the Mega Man X spin-offs, the Mega Man Xtreme Duology, which was released on the Game Boy Color in 2000 for Mega Man Xtreme 1, and 2001 for Mega Man Xtreme 2. I thought about covering these games individually, but after playing them and suffering through them, I realized that I don't really have much to say on both of them, so I thought to make it one video. Mega Man being on the Game Boy wasn't new when the first Xtreme game was released, since the classic series got 5 games on Game Boy with the Rockman World series, and 1 game on the Game Gear that is apparently one of the worst Mega Man games of all time. But that is a discussion we can wait till on when we talk about the classic Mega Man games on this channel. The thing with Mega Man X is that there are more things to do than just run and gun compared to the classic Mega Man games. That was just the running and gunning which cemented that kind of game design. So making an X game on the Game Boy Color is gonna be more complicated than it seems. I said in my Mega Man X5 video that I rarely if ever go back to the X games after X4, with Maverick Hunter X as the exception. And that can be said about these titles as well. I did play them when I acquired Mega Man Brain Rot in 2021, but aside from that first run, I haven't played them that much. My thoughts were that Mega Man Xtreme 1 is not worth playing nowadays, and that Mega Man Xtreme 2 is more interesting than 1, but is also not worth playing nowadays. This was cemented further with the Nintendo Switch and Steam Deck, which are handheld consoles with console-like qualities to them, with having the Mega Man X Legacy collections on them. So it kinda made playing the Game Boy Color games more obsolete than ever nowadays. Though I am interested to see how these titles hold up, so let's get started with the first Mega Man Xtreme. Mega Man Xtreme is a pretty impressive game for what it is. I said earlier that Mega Man on Game Boy was nothing new when this game was released, and making classic Mega Man work on Game Boy is going to be pretty easy going, but making X work on the Game Boy Color is more complicated. Mega Man X games are more complicated because while they do have the typical running and gunning that the series is known for, they also have weapon switching on the fly, dashing, wall climbing, and items to collect. So how does Xtreme handle this stuff? Dashing in the Xtreme games is very interesting. Dashing in the X games worked by pressing a button, but by default, dashing is done via a Kirby-style double tap, where you double tap the D-pad to pull it off. You can do that in the previous mainline Mega Man X games, but the dash button makes it more comfortable than double tapping the D-pad. I also find double tapping the D-pad to be more cumbersome than in the mainline X games. There is an option to play the game where the start button is where you dash, which makes sense since typically the dash button in the anti-SNES games is done via the A button or the circle button. But since there are only 2 face buttons on the Game Boy Color, they had to do what they had to do, and is my preferred option if you were to play this game. But if you wanted to play it more comfortably, then use an emulator and assign one of the buttons to be the start button, and then you'll have something close to the feeling of the Mega Man X games. Wall climbing is the same that it has always been in the Mega Man X series. The weapon switching is done like in the classic games, where you go into the menu and change the weapon from there instead of just doing it on the fly. And finally, the item part of Mega Man X is still there and accounted for, but we will get to that later. Now, in this game, you are going to be revisiting levels from Mega Man X1 and X2. The story reason for this is that the game takes place between Mega Man X2 and Mega Man X3. In the game, the mother computer got hacked by an outside force, which was soon learned to be Biddy's brother, causing the data of X's previously defeated enemies to return. So X has to go into cyberspace and defeat them again. This is not a Sonic Frontiers reference, but I'm so glad I didn't put it in there because we'll save that for later. There are 8 levels of Mega Man Xtreme, 4 levels in normal mode and 4 levels in hard mode. In normal mode, you go through Chill Penguin, Spark Mandrill, Storm Eagle, and Flame Stags as stages. In hard mode, you go through Wheel Gator, Morph Moth, Magna Centipede, and Armored Armadillo stages. There's not much I could say about these stages since overall they are really short, so I'm not engaged with them and feel like I'm on autopilot with them. There is also the fact that this is the first portable Mega Man X game, so there are bound to be moments of screen crunch, and I felt that the most with Spark Mandrill's level at this section with the cannons and enemies coming all over the place. It's just not that pleasant to go through. I will say this though, the game still has the item collection that this X series is known for. You have the hard tanks, the sub tanks, and in this game, you get the first armor back, which means we get this pretty nice render of it in the X4 style, which is it's so good looking. But there is one different ability. By default in this game, you have the dash ability. So what do the foot parts do in Xtreme if they don't do the dash? The foot parts in this game makes you dash jump off the wall automatically. In the console Mega Man game, this was the ability you could do by pressing the dash button while jumping off the wall. But in this game, I feel like it's not all that great and most likely leads you to taking more damage or getting into trouble than normal. The biggest problem with Mega Man Xtreme is that it's padded out the ass. I said that there are 8 stages of Mega Man Xtreme, but they are divided into normal mode and hard mode. To play them all, you need to do a run of normal mode to unlock hard mode. After you beat hard mode, you unlock extreme mode, where you can do all 8 stages in one run. It's probably the only way to play Mega Man Xtreme in the current day to just get extreme mode. It also doesn't help that you transfer save data from your normal mode into hard mode, making hard mode easier than normal mode. And the fact that since Rolling Shield is in hard mode, the final boss is such a pushover than in normal mode. Also, the bosses in Extreme I feel take forever than in any other Mega Man game. But I think I've gone on long enough on this game, because overall, Mega Man Xtreme in the current day is just not worth playing nowadays. I wouldn't say it's a bad game, and if this video has piqued your interest whatsoever, I'd say give the game a shot, but for me, this is the last time I am gonna play it, especially now that we have the Legacy collections on the Switch and Steam Deck, and you can mod the Steam Deck to include Maverick Hunter X and Command Mission, so playing the game for this video really cemented it for me. So heading into Mega Man Xtreme 2, I was a little concerned on how I would feel after a playthrough, but I think that Mega Man Xtreme 2 is one of my new least favorite Mega Man games. I still find it weird to this day that Extreme 2 was released in 2001, the same year that the Game Boy Advance came out, and the same year that Mega Man Zero came out in Japan. I think it would have been better if Extreme 2 was a tech demo for the Game Boy Advance to show how Mega Man X gameplay can work on it, but this is not the world we live in and we have it on the Game Boy Color. So what is the setup for Mega Man Xtreme 2? After the events of Mega Man X3, Reploids start to malfunction or not work, which was named Erasure. One day, all readings of Reploids on Lagoo's Island in the Southern Ocean unexpectedly vanish. The Maverick Hunters, X and Zero, receive orders to investigate the island in order to determine what is going on and who is behind it. After the intro stage, a Reploid named Gareth tells the Maverick Hunters that they need to defeat the 8 Guardians on the island, so X and Zero decide to split up to deal with them. During the game, you will get help from Iris, with her being the operator of the part system in this game. What I like about this setup is that there are stakes to what's happening in the world of Mega Man X, with the Reploids going haywire, one might say, but I don't really think the story in a Mega Man game is going to be the thing to make the game good, since I love X4 despite how cringe the story elements are. So how is the gameplay of Mega Man Xtreme 2? Mega Man Xtreme 2 is more extreme with a bit of new stuff added onto it. You have the controls of the first Xtreme game with the downgrade of the fact you can't use the start button to dash, which means that you have to double tap the D-pad to dash in this game, and it's something I really don't like doing to begin with. But overall, X's base moveset hasn't really changed whatsoever between games. His armor upgrades are the upgrades from Mega Man X3. The upwards dash and air dash are moves I really like and used a lot because it's better than fucking D-dap. But the new Charge Buster is even worse than the Charge Buster in Mega Man X3, which was already not a good Buster upgrade to begin with. Xtreme 2 allows you to play as Zero, and this is where the game flew further down my Mega Man X ranking. Zero is a character who was pretty fun in Mega Man X4 and X5. While X was more of a beginner character, with him having the Buster arm and controlling the same as the other games before then, Zero is a more of a risk-reward character by comparison. He uses his Z-Saber to defeat his enemies, which made him more distinct from X, but Zero in Xtreme 2 is not fun in any capacity. So Zero's playstyle is the same in the mainline X games. The problem with Zero is that the hitbox on his Z-Saber is really small, and that sometimes will get you hit instead of hitting the enemy. So it just makes the interesting difference with Zero the worst part about Zero. It also doesn't help that the way his techniques work in this game is another thing that isn't fun about Zero. Zero's techniques were fun and unique ways to expand his moveset in the previous Mega Man X games. Most of the moves he had didn't cost anything with some exceptions, but in Xtreme 2, all of the moves Zero has in this game takes up energy from the bar below the health bar, which means that if you use them all up at a boss and then die, ding dong, you're fucked. The levels are also something I was not a big fan of. For a sequel, I thought they would improve on the aspect that the game had moments of screen crunch, but instead you get a Blast Hornet where it is screen crunch palooza and it fucking sucks. There are also gimmicks in these stages that I fucking despise, like the electric water in Volt Catfish's level, the bike actions in Overdrive Otrus's level, and the mech section of Tunnel Rhino's level. All of this combined with the controls, I am not really a fan of. Makes me not want to return to the Xtreme games anytime soon. Though there are some positives that come with this game, since it's not all that bad. The main gimmick of Xtreme 2 is that there is a part system that they added. The health pickups in the stages are also currency for the parts you get, and there are some that are useful, like half the energy usage, but the increased damage for X's Buster and Zero's Saber are a game changer. It makes the stages more bearable to go through, and makes the slow bosses die even faster. The game looks better and more visually distinct than the first Xtreme game, and the story was more interesting. But that's really about it with Mega Man Xtreme 2. It does some things I like more than the first Mega Man Xtreme game, but it's still a game I think shouldn't have been made on the Game Boy Color. Playing through this game again, I was shocked by how much I didn't like it, since it did more than the first one, but most of the new stuff is why I don't like Xtreme 2. Like I said in the beginning, these were meant to be ways to play the Mega Man X games on the go back then, but portable games before the Nintendo Switch had two distinctions between them. They were good for the console, or just good games. But even before then, there are games like the portable Mega Man games, which were ways to play the games on the go, but with the Switch and Steam Deck are kind of unnecessary nowadays. It would have been cool if we got a Mega Man X Legacy Collection 3 that came with the Xtreme games, Command Mission, and Maverick Hunter X, but these collections didn't really include spin-off material, but that's really about it with this video. I didn't have much to say on these games, and I think it kinda shows. But as always, have a nice day.